Today we're going to read from Discourse number 1, verses 20 to 27. And so my partner here is Khushbu Kantaria from Bangalore, India, and she's going to read the verse in Sanskrit, and then I am going to read the verse in two versions of translation. So, verse 20.
अथ व्यवस्थिता नदर्ष्टवा धार्तराष्ट्रन् कपिध्वज पूर्वते संपाते धनुरुधर्म्य पांडवः हर्षिकेश तदा वाक्यमिदमाह महीपते.
Verse 20. When he saw the sons of Dhritarashtra drawn up in battle array in the emerging clash of weapons, the son of Pandu with his monkey banner raised his bow. And the other translation, then beholding the sons of Dhritarashtra drawn up on the battlefield, ready to begin the fight, Arjuna, whose flag bore the Hanuman. Verse 21.
सेनयोरु भयो मध्ये रथः स्थावपद मेदच्युत यावदेता निन्रीक्षेदः योद्धुकामानव स्थिति तानः. Verse 21.
Then straight-haired Arjuna spoke these words to bristling-haired Krishna, Lord of the earth, unchanging one, make my chariot stand in the middle of the two armies. And the other translation, raising his bow, spoke thus to the Lord Sri Krishna, O infallible earth, please draw up my chariot between the two armies. Verse 22.
कैमर्या सह येद्धव्यमस्मिन्नहरण समृद्धमे. Verse 22.
Until I see fully these men drawn up in a hunger for battle, with whom must I fight in the beginning this battle? Reads, so that I may observe those who must fight on my side, those who must fight against me. Verse 23.
योत्स्यमानान् वैश्यदः यः एत्रिदत्र समागता धार्तराष्ट्रस्य द्रुबुदेते युद्धे प्रियचिकीर्षवः. Verse 23.
Verse 23. I see them out to fight, those who have gathered here, wishing to do loving service in battle for the hard-souled son of Dhritarashtra. And the other translation reads, and gaze over this array, son of Dhritarashtra. Verse 24.
एवमुक्को हर्षिकेशो गुडाकेशेन मध्ये स्थाययत्वः रथोत्तमः. Verse 24.
Son of Bharata, in this way, bristling-haired Krishna was spoken to by thick-haired Arjuna, while Krishna made the great chariot stand between both armies. And the other translation reads, having listened to the request of Arjuna, Lord Sri Krishna drew up his bright chariot exactly in the midst between the two armies. Verse 25.
भीष्म द्रोण प्रमुखतः सर्वाशा च Shitamaha. Uvacha Parth Pashyetanamasa Samevata Kuruniti. Verse 25.
Facing Bhishma and Drona and all the rulers of the world, Arjuna, son of Pritha, said, "Look at the Kurus gathered in this way." And the other translation reads, "Whither Bhishma and Drona had led all the rulers of the earth and spoke thus, O Arjuna, behold these members of the family of Kuru assembled." Verse 26.
Tatra Pashya Tisthatana Patratha Pitrunath Pitamahan Acharya Namatula Bhatrupotra Putrana Sakhitastha Swasura Nahuda Daschaveva Senayoru Bhayorupi. Verse 26.
Arjuna, son of Pritha, saw fathers and then grandfathers standing there, teachers, mothers, brothers, sons, grandsons, and friends too. The other translation reads, there Arjuna noticed fathers, grandfathers, uncles, cousins, sons, grandsons, teachers, friends. Verse 27.
Tansamishya Sha Koteya Sarvana Dhavadu Navasthitana Krupaya Parayavishto Vishidanti Dama Drabita. Verse 27.
Fathers-in-law and companions of strong heart, looking at all his relatives come together in both armies, the son of Kunti. And the other translation reads, fathers-in-law and benefactors arrayed on both sides. Arjuna then gazed at all those kinsmen before him. And that's the end of today's reading. I'll now go back and read the footnotes. So let me go back to the footnotes. So remember the monkey banner that we discussed that was in verse 20. And so here's, go ahead.
Hanuman, the greatest student ever.
The greatest student ever. Okay, so here is verse 20 again, and then I'll read the footnote. Then beholding the sons of Dhritarashtra drawn up on the battlefield, ready to begin the fight, Arjuna, whose flag bore the Hanuman. And the footnote reads, the monkey king, Hanuman, a hero of the epic Ramayana, is a model of devoted service to God in his incarnation as Lord Rama. And there's a general note by someone named Winthrop Sargent here. It says, just as the first day of battle started, Arjuna asked Krishna, his charioteer, to drop the chariot between the two armies, and the Bhagavad Gita, all 2,800 lines of it, was spoken between Krishna and Arjuna. The great Yale Sanskritist Franklin Edgerton has called this a dramatic absurdity. With all due respect, I do not agree. When God speaks, it is not illogical for time to stand still while armies stand frozen in their places. Then footnote 10, whether Bhishma and Drona had led all the rulers of the earth and spoke thus, O Arjuna, behold these members of the family of Kuru assembled. And the footnote reads, these first words of Lord Krishna may be regarded as his instructions to Arjuna. According to Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, they have a significance that has been overlooked by commentators who merely portray Arjuna as a confused mental wreck. At first, Arjuna is confident and eager for battle, But as soon as Krishna directs him to behold the assembled warriors, he is overcome by sadness and is unable to fight. In the original Sanskrit, Krishna addresses Arjuna as Partha, meaning the son of Prita, an epithet for Arjuna's mother omitted from the present translation. The mention of his mother, says Maharishi, stirs compassion in Arjuna's heart and conflict in his mind. Krishna has thus deliberately placed him in a state of suspension between love and duty, so that he is unable to act. Why did Krishna do this? Because in this state, Arjuna is ready to request and willingly receive the teaching that Krishna wishes to bestow on him, for wisdom cannot be imparted to a person unless he or she asks for it. And so that's the footnote. And Khushbu, do you have further comments on this section? Yep. Gonna unmute you, or you have to unmute yourself.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll pass it on today. I wanted to, yeah. So there's this one perception about truth, which is being written here in the beginning of the version which I have, which says there is the truth. If we are talking about that, then it's an argument. It means vivad. And then there is two dimension of the truth. Is my truth and your truth. So when we are talking about the truth from the perception of my truth and your truth, then it is samvad, means discussion. Does it make sense what I say?
Yeah. In other words, it's that if there's a difference between our truths, a thesis and an antithesis, then we need to find a synthesis, and that requires further discussion, correct?
Yeah, correct. And but there is the nature of truth which you uphold will define that it is an argument or a discussion. It can also be interpreted like that.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Argument, debate can be violent also.
Yeah.
The American Civil War is an example, brother against brother.
Oh, yeah. So we have to think about it when we listen to Gita, that are we listening to an argument or are we listening to a discussion? And are we focused on the truth, ultimate truth, or are we also considering the individual truth through which the truth expresses itself?
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And okay, is that it? Then I have some thoughts also, but go ahead.
Sure. That's it.
Okay. Well, what interested me here especially is that Arjuna saw fathers and then grandfathers standing there, teachers, mothers, brothers, sons, grandsons, and friends, and so on. And so the point is that Arjuna is seeing something that is before the existence of all these people. And so he's seeing back into time and how all the hopes of all those ancestors over time came to his mind at that moment. And what I want to observe is that all of us, when we are born, um, are not tabula rasa, as some people think. We are the construct and the buildup of everything that happened to our ancestors going back all the way to single celled organisms. So, ever since the invention of sex, um, our parents have been reproducing. They have all done two things successfully. Everybody that's watching this and everybody in the world had all these ancestors going back 3.5 billion years do two things successfully. They survived until they reproduced or they created something. It doesn't mean necessarily physically reproduced. So when you're born, you have all those ancestors building you up. And so Arjuna here has realized this and realized that the same is true of the other army, because they're all his kinsmen also. And so he's despondent about that. This chapter in one translation is called The Despondency of Arjuna. And we can think of these armies as when you're born, you have all these different conflicting things going on in your psyche, and your unconscious mind is doing many things for you already that you don't even think about, like your heart is beating, your lungs are breathing, your cells are regenerating every 7 years, all those things. And then all the conscious things, the experiential things of all your ancestors are somehow in there and have been incorporated into you. And so when you're young, you have this war going on between the two sides, because there are opposites, and this is one of the big insights of Jungian psychology, which is that all psychic energy comes from the opposites. And so, in very simplistic terms, this is spirits coming up, two sides, both the opposites, and think of thousands of opposites in your psyche. And as you grow up, you learn from your parents, you're educated, and you learn how to handle those opposites. But at the beginning, it's like the chaos of being between two great armies. And so Dr. Jung it was always referring back to a biblical passage, a passage from the Bible, which is 1 John 4:1, which basically says, examine the spirits whether they be of God or not. And so in every case, in all these things, all these psychic energies that are coming up in you, you have to be able to make a decision between right and wrong, good and evil, and so on. And so his point is that in the first part of life, you're building up an ego strong enough so that later in life you can make decisions between right and wrong, between good and evil. And so this is where Arjuna is in his life. He's already a great warrior. He's leading his army, the Pandavas. He has built up his ego to be strong enough to have Krishna as his charioteer, but he's still confused, as many young people are confused about what the truth is. And so he's despondent over these armies of ideas and things from an unconscious point of view coming up in him. And they're represented both as an army in the physical world, but also as these spirits that are affecting him. And so Krishna is going to help sort this out. So he causes this stop in time where Arjuna's chariot is stopped between the two armies, and now Krishna is instructing him on how to make the decisions, right and wrong, good and evil. And there's one comment here which I I'd like to see, but my computer screen is okay. So Colleen says, "This is so wonderful. Thank you so much for doing this." Okay, you're quite welcome, Colleen. So anyway, do you have any comment on what I've just said, Kushbu? Because you wouldn't have heard what I said. I mean, you may have heard what I've said in different ways by studying with me, but
Yeah.
do you have any comment about this insight of mine?
Mm, I want to add another aspect to it rather,
Okay.
which you said that young people about the truth, and I would say there's another aspect to it, is the truth which sometimes um, uh, one has as a child or as a spouse, one has to take a stand against the authorities.
Mhm.
And of course, there is your own truth is active in that realm when you have to take your stand, and it might be you, yeah, it
Right.
might be difficult because it's against the loved one. So, and that aspect also we can begin to see in that, like, you might mentally take a decision, but when it comes physically in front of the loving face of your loved one, you know,
Yeah.
acting at so it described the goosebumps of this moment for Arjuna, like on the skin, not in the mind. that,
Right.
that that's something I strongly feel in this discourse of ours of today.
I'll give an example of how this came up for me, and it came entirely from the unconscious. So I was a young boy, I was growing up, and every so often, um, my either my father or my mother would slap me across the face to wake me up, right? And sometimes parents, especially in America, will spank their children, and it was an example from earlier days. But as you're saying,
In India, parents will run behind their children with broomstick.
okay, so this came entirely from the unconscious. But when I was in the 8th grade, so I was about 14 years old, I guess, or 13 years old. But by that age, I was already taller than my mother. Okay, I was bigger
Oh,
than she was, and one time, I don't know, my brother and I were doing something to my sister that she was angry about. And so my mother came over and she wanted to slap me across the face like that, right? And
mm,
just from the unconscious, I put my arm up like this, and it blocked her arm, and it nearly broke her arm.
oh,
That was the last time she tried to spank me in my life, was that moment.
uh,
And it came
uh,
from the unconscious. So it was a psychic energy that came and said, okay, this authority figure, your mother, isn't always right. What are you going to do about it? You're going to put your arm up and stop her from slapping. Now there's a person named Akshaya on here, and she says, she, I think it must be a she, Akshaya, says, how deeply have the Vedas and the Upanishads influenced Carl Jung? Love finding connections between Jung's work and Indian philosophical texts. How
mm,
does the modern man strike a balance between rationality and spirituality? without the two contradicting one another. Thank you. Okay,
Well, I
so
have a
go ahead. You want to answer?
I have the same dilemma, and that is why I'm gonna find the connection in between uh, Jungian thought and Gandhian life,
Yeah,
not thought but life. Because I think Gandhi Bapu did the same, explored same dilemma which which Akshay is asking. So
right,
that is why I'm going to study that to find the answer, Akshay.
right. Um, well, as it happened, this question sort of came up yesterday too. So let me find the answer for this. Um, but one thing was that Dr. Jung wrote a whole book called Psychology of the Kundalini Yoga. Okay, so there's a lot of Indian material in there. And as Lewis explained to us yesterday, Lewis Lafontaine, um, there there are references to the Bhagavad Gita in the Red Book already. So very early in his writing career, um, he was seeing um, connections to the Indian mythology. And wait a minute, wait a minute, I'm looking. Don't want to look at Twitter. I want to look at primary. Okay. I'm not finding it right now, but Dr. Jung was very close to a man named Heinrich Zimmer, and Zimmer was an expert on Indian mythology. Ironically, he never visited India. Heinrich Zimmer never did, and um, uh, Jung only went to India one time, which seems very little because I've been there 44 times on business. So,
You are very proud of that. I know that.
oh yeah, I am proud of it, having done it all, because I have many, many good Indian stories. I even know how to wag my chin.
Oh my God.
Okay,
We
so
Indians are being stigmatized so much.
right. Oh, but that's not stigmatization. That's just appreciating a different quirk of the Indian psychology. It's
Sure. Yeah.
I am not
Sure,
stigmatizing
sure, sure, sure.
it. So um so anyway,
Fun.
so Akshaya, the answer is go to volume 20 of the collected works, which is the index of the collected works, and there you will find um, whatever is about India that's in Jung's collected works will be there. And if you don't have access to volume 20, please write me at skip.conover@gmail.com and I will see what I can do to help you. Now, she also
I,
says, pardon?
um, Dr. Ashok Bedi has written a book called Jung's Encounter with Soul of India. That's
Ah,
also something which we might can pursue because I'm just looking at it right now.
yeah, I want to read that book. I noticed that a couple of weeks ago when Ashok spoke with us. Um, and so how does modern man strike a balance between rationality and spirituality without the two contradicting one another? And Akshaya, that's the two do contradict one another, and that's a set of opposites that create psychic energy. It's like, you think of we produce electrical energy by having a generator in a waterfall or a nuclear power generator or something like that, and that spins around and it causes electricity. Well, the opposites are what cause psychic energy. And so you can never do away with them, because if you do away with them, then you're dead. You're inert. You have no psychic energy if you do away with them. And so what you have to do is learn how to balance them. And unfortunately, in the West, and I can't really speak for India, but certainly in the West, we have become very much out of balance on the side of the logos. And so we need to come back toward the eros side. And I speak about logos and eros very much, so I'm not going to say it again here, but please find my talk that I did last October 27th called Finding the Living God. And there you will hear me talk about it in great detail. And it's on this YouTube channel. I'll put a link to it in the description of this essay, but it'll be later today, so it won't be there immediately. Sean says, these stories make me feel like an infant and a lion, the odd nature of being unwise and also knowing you're close to the truth. Yes, I agree with you, Sean. Williverse says, Akshaya, the modern systems prevent achieving such a goal. It's hard to live righteous while living in the unrighteous realm. Yeah, well, that's where we're out of balance, and we need to find a way to get back to that. And I address that in Finding the Living God. So, Khushbu, what is the reading for tomorrow? So we've done through 27. What will be the reading for tomorrow?
Tomorrow going to be a long one.
Okay.
It's 28 to 47.
28 to 47. Okay, so that's right to the end of this first discourse tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah, so Arjun is saying, talking about cowardliness, grief, redemption, and Sanjay, who is talking, who is explaining this to the king, is explaining how sad position of Arjuna is in this moment. Yeah.
Okay. So this is maybe the realization of the nihilist. What's it all about, right? You know, the nihilist who can't get into life, and so he's caught between these two armies of ideas. And how do you decide for the right side? How do you do that?
We will get to know tomorrow.
Yes, we'll get to know tomorrow. And Akshaya says, do you think that there's a possibility this is the Kali Yoga? Can you please mention the content for this discussion here? Would love to refresh my memory. Well, Akshay, I think, I mean, it may come up in the Bhagavad Gita, and I don't want to spoil the plot, because one way I'm actually reading the Bhagavad Gita is I'm actually reading the Bhagavad Gita with you. So I don't, you know, there's certainly always Kali Yoga involved in Jungian psychology, in the sense that, you know, there's always the destructive force, you know, the destructive and then the creative. Things get destroyed and creative things come from the destructive. And so really Kali Yoga is all the way through our lives and all the way through, um, all mythology, not only the Bhagavad Gita, not only the Mahabharata, but all mythology has that. And so it's what you're asking is a huge lift that we couldn't possibly do if we talked constantly for weeks. Do you agree with that, Kushbu?
Well, I think it is Kali Yuga, as per, I think it is. And I have a feeling that the coming age of Aquarius, um, uh, that concept also resonates with what Hinduism has been talking about, the Kali Yuga and the the Avtara of Kalki. Description of Kalki is what their description of what rainbow children um, might need an environment like the mother of the rainbow children. So
Yeah,
those concepts are very parallel. So rather, it makes me more hopeful about my grandchildren might have earth to survive on. You know.
yeah, very much
So
so.
yeah, yeah.
So, um, yeah, I mean, when I think back on my lifetime, during the 60s, we had the flower children, Woodstock and all that, and the stage play Hair, um, where, you know, all these beautiful people were naked on stage at one point. And so it was going entirely over to the spiritual side, and it was breaking up certain calcified attitudes of the logos side, and it did break them up. Not all, both the flower children and the anti-war movement in the United States broke those calcified attitudes up, and then they're reborn. The calcified attitudes are reborn, and they need to be broken up again, and we need to learn to live in better balance than we have the last 40 years, or actually
Oh,
now that's 60 years. So that's a collective unconscious development of the Kali yoga, I guess. And so what we're seeing now is just Mother Nature's attack on calcified attitudes in the form of the coronavirus.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't say attack. I would say Mother Nature claiming her power back.
Yes, surely.
Yeah,
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 that's
yeah,
right. Mother Nature opening our minds to other thoughts that maybe a lot of
yeah.
my,
It's
a
not
lot of,
an attack. It's not an attack. It's actually a very loving gesture,
yeah,
I
yeah,
would say.
right. And
Yeah,
that's why our friend Joss calls the coronavirus the love
love
virus.
virus. God bless her. Such
Yeah,
a
God.
beauty she is.
Yeah, she is. Okay, we need to end this for today. And let's see. Sean says, Memento Mori, glad anyone who is here to see this. We're alive for today at least. Let's keep learning to live and learning to love just a bit more every day. Very nice, Sean. Thank you. Um, and Sean is one of my longtime followers, so I'm very appreciative for your comments, Sean. So anyway, Kushbu, I'll see you later in the advanced reading group, I hope, but maybe not. You can go to bed. It's all right.
What to do?
Yeah,
It is
peace.
love and life. It's always in between love and life. You have to
Yeah.
balance it.
So yeah, please balance.
Yeah,
But I will be online in an hour and a half for the advanced reading group, and so I'll see
yeah.
you tomorrow for more of the Bhagavad Gita at 11.
Yes, Arjuna is going to be sad looking at the battlefield tomorrow.
Yes, right.
Namaste. Love.
Oh, wait a minute. One more comment. How do you compare Jung's concept of the self? And is the question. And the answer is on page 116 of the Penguin Classic of the Bhagavad Gita, the
You
Blessed
even
One.
know.
Pardon? It's the 10th discourse starting at verse 19 to the end of the 10th discourse. So they're quite similar. And the Indian concept of Atman, you know, Atman, I think, is personal self, right? Kushbu,
Yeah,
you understand that as personal self?
yeah.
Right.
Atman is Atma, the holy grail in you, like
Yeah,
the godly essence of a human which you address to.
yeah, that's good. The godly essence of a human is the Holy Grail.
So I like to read this and end our call here. Can I?
Say it. Go ahead. Yes, please.
Within infinite myths lie an eternal truth. Who see it all? Question mark. Varuna has but 1,000 eyes. Indra 100. You and me only 2. That's it.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. And it comports with that, the verses I referred you to, self-unfoldment. So discourse 10, starting at verse 19, and you'll find Jung's concept of the self perfectly expressed. And as Kushbu just explained, you see the many ways of thinking about it, which is the 1,000 eyes, right? And we only have 2 eyes. and unfortunately, on the US dollar bill, there's only 1 eye.
1 eye.
Right? If you look at
No
it,
wonder.
we're trying to do it every day. Yeah. So the US has become very one-sided toward the logos because God only has 1 eye. And on the US dollar.
Odin, the father of 1 eye. So he becomes,
Yes, indeed.
yeah.
There's a great though bloody scene of Kirk Douglas, The Vikings, and Kirk Douglas basically plays Thor in that movie. Very powerful movie. It's very old, The Vikings with Kirk Douglas. Anyway, peace to you, Kushbu. We'll see you tomorrow for another reading. We'll finish discourse 1. Okay, peace. Thank you.